The T125 is one of the most powerful tanks in World of Tanks, so let's see why this is and how you can take advantage of this vehicle if you do decide to get it. So what makes the T125 so special? Well, it is the fact that this is so accurate. It also has the mobility, it has the gun, it has the armor model in some regard, and that makes it so strong in today's current meta on World of Tanks, and you can see that in the couple of replays that we've got for you guys in today's video. Now the T125 is a vehicle that will definitely kind of split the community. Some will say that it's trash, some will say that it's fantastic, but I actually think that under a skilled player's hand this vehicle is one of the strongest because it just has the ability to offer a lot for someone that is looking to advance in their gameplay. If you're able to carry games, then this is a vehicle that can definitely do that, and that is what the first two replays are showcasing. Now in a situation like you're seeing here, where you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, or at least you're trying to poke against some tank destroyers and you've got loads of different targets that could be in front of you and you're having to swivel between the two, something like a mouse just isn't going to cut it when it comes to the heavy tank at tier 10. But the T125, because of the accuracy and because of the mobility where you can kind of pop in and out and deal damage, that is where this thing can dominate in the game, and that is where you want the T125. Being able to also relocate is one of the strongest parts of this vehicle because you can do things like this. You can get into a hold down position to deal with tortoises, to deal with the VZ, to deal with anyone that you should, and then if this situation arises where you have to then leave, or maybe you decide that there's alternative options for you to do, then you can also take those options. Whereas if you're playing in a more common heavy tank where you're in something like, for example, the 50 TP, once you've made your move there is nothing you can really do, so you have to be very careful. Whereas the T125 is more flexible. It's almost like a really heavily armoured version of a medium tank that has the gun characteristics of a medium, and hence why you can snapshot cupola shots and also some of the weak points of a lot of these vehicles that you'll be chasing, albeit you do have slightly less alpha than some of the other tier 10 heavies. So you're seeing constant marksmanship from the vehicle here, and it's just pounding through a lot of the opponents, and you can do it on the move with this vehicle because the dispersion whilst actually moving is perfect. So vehicles like the VZ, just although they have such a long reload where they're not able to do anything, but actually when they are reloaded they're going to struggle to kind of snapshots into you, whereas the T125, if you've ever played things like the Renegade, is somewhat similar, where you're able to kind of snap into people, you're able to use your dispersion to great effect and basically dominate this tier 10 games where people just don't understand the value of the T125. So not only do you have power against tanks because of the armor and because of the actual kind of level of the vehicle being so good, but it's also the fact that when you're up against lower tier vehicles, things like the Action X for example, you can just put round after round into them and they don't really have a whole lot of things that they can do against you because your armor starts working against tier 8s. Now I'm not saying the T125 is perfect because there are plenty of things that the vehicle will suffer with, and that comes in the form of the armor model to a degree. So for example, we can see here that a round has landed into the cupola, and this is a key weak point of the T125. You can be penned very easily through the cupola, and you can also be penned through the lower plate. You can also be penned in the upper plate, and if anyone gets the side armor of you, it's going to be beyond awful for you. However, you can see here the French heavy, obviously thinking he's Billy Big Bollocks, has decided to go after the E5, but he's forgotten one key thing, is that with this vehicle being so flexible, he's able to run rings around this slow, cumbersome AMX, and that makes it very easy for him to be able to deal damage. But you'll notice that he's not been able to block a single shot of damage from the AMX, which is the key kind of point that I want to make, is that yes, although we've said the armor model works, it's primarily against lower tier vehicles, which you'd expect from a tier 10 heavy, and of course with the premium meta going on at the moment. And so there's kind of the disparity between maybe this tank and a Maus, for example, where the Maus can block damage on all regards, whereas the T125 doesn't have that option. Now anyone that has played the T125 or in fact any of the American heavy tanks will know exactly what it is nice seeing, and that is an AFK tank, because the DPM of the T125 for a tier 10 heavy is amazing, like beyond amazing, and that allows you to do things that many of the other vehicles in the game, things that are super heavy, just won't be able to do. And that's really where the T125 will just dominate those vehicles, and where maybe they would spend 15 to 20 seconds reloading a single round, the T125 will take 7. So it's really nice, and it allows you to just be able to finish off multiple targets, as you're seeing throughout this replay and throughout the next couple of replays at the same time. So it's all about being flexible in water tanks at the high end, and how you too can also take advantage of it. So you want to be playing this thing like an ultimate brawler. You want to be the super brawler within the game. Now you're not going to be able to be a pure heavy tank side scraping off of buildings, because the T125 will get penned through the engine deck, which is located here, and actually from the front you can get penned in the engine deck because of the raised back of the vehicle. So very well aimed shots from opponents that know what they're doing can actually pen you through the engine deck, which is a little bit disappointing, as well as people being able to hit the cupola if they can see that as well. So side scraping doesn't typically work very well in this vehicle, but it's not to say that it won't work at all. Now in addition to the flexibility, this vehicle also offers a little bit of view range, which is also quite nice, and it allows you to do some things that many of the other vehicles just at tier 10 and heavy tanks in general just won't be able to do. So these are the type of games that you seriously want in your T125, where you're able to deal nearly 12,000 damage and block 2,500 as well. So we're going to continue with this video, showcase even more reasons why you want to be getting yourself a T125 within World of Tanks. So if you're a player that loves fighting on ridgelines, the T125 is probably for you, because it offers the ability to have the 8 degrees of gun depression that you'd probably expect from a vehicle like this, whilst also being able to be very reliable with its gun, and of course the Renegade being very similar. So if you've enjoyed playing the tier 8 premium, it's basically the exact same tank but up 2 tiers and with just as much fun. Now with this game in particular that you're seeing here, we've got the enemy team progressing along the bottom of the map on the beach, which is of course one of the positions I absolutely don't get the pointing going down, and I hate going down there. But one other thing that you're seeing here is that the enemy team are kind of focusing around the T125 here, which in this sort of matchup where you are one of the top tier vehicles in the game and there's not very many tier 10s, you can kind of come out on top quite well, especially if you play your cards right, and that's exactly what this replay is showcasing, and also going to showcase that even in the toughest of scenarios you can still come out on top, because this thing does get tested, and even with the testing that goes against this vehicle, you can still push out so much damage and rip apart the opponents that maybe underestimate how good, how powerful, and when a good player is inside of it, the T125 can be. So you're seeing here that the T125 can shut down the Char Futur there, which is really important, because it's time to actually start removing people from this flank, because once you start doing that you can then deal with the people that are going to be coming from behind you, up behind, and then they're really going to start dealing damage, and so it's really imperative that at this point you're then going to start moving from this position to try and spot anyone that's going to be over here. Then you can turn around and deal with the people that are going to be coming up from behind, or alternatively preemptively take out the people that are coming up from behind. Now you're seeing here him coming in with some support, and with the accuracy once again just being super accurate, you can place rounds very nicely and start dealing with these opponents. Now then, once again, it's super critical to be aggressive in this vehicle in this sort of scenario where you've got the people going to be coming from multiple directions. You can see here this player right here knows exactly the weak point of these American heavy tanks / tank destroyers in the T30, and of course the hull armor, because he was going for the kind of rear engine deck, but unfortunately didn't manage to connect the shot, but it didn't matter because he managed to go through the hull and of course straight through the hull armor. So, as we suggested, the enemy team have now decided to progress from behind, and we're ending up in this sausage sandwich fest that we typically have on maps where, you know, you release too much of the map control and then they end up coming from all directions and you just get stung by multiple different directions where you can't really focus on one. But in this game, what you're seeing here is him, the player here, deciding that actually no, it's time to start focusing on one flank at a time. Get rid of one, then deal with the other, and then kind of go from there. Now you see 2 nicely placed rounds into the top of the T110E3, making it very, very easy. That unfortunately for the T34, he doesn't have the gun elevation to be able to deal with the E5, and his older brother, or the 2 tiers higher to vehicle, definitely takes him out quite nicely. Now you're seeing here a very, very good play from this T110E5 player, because he's decided that actually sitting where he's going to be is not beneficial for his team, and it's really crucial that this 60 TP on the enemy team gets removed from the game as quickly as possible, because that vehicle at tier 10 can remove the STB's hit points very quickly. And you've seen there with the first shot into the STB, it's removed the half of his hit points that were remaining on that vehicle. So with both tier 10s now focusing on one tier 10, you can come out with hopefully the victory. But 60 TP still going after the STB does finally take him out, but at least you can see here the T110E5 managing to take him out without taking a single hit point of damage in this game so far. So you can see how fluidly the E5 seems to play within the game. You've got all the flexibility that we've been banging on about throughout this video to be able to go through and just have an impact against whoever you may think is the biggest threat. And you can see here with the realization that the Leopard 1 is now pushing towards him, and with the T110E3 or the T103, and also now the GSAW 1008 coming towards him, it's very imperative that he starts hitting these rounds, and because of the accuracy he's able to do that. Now with the Leopard 1 still sat behind him and undetected, he's not sure where he's going to be coming from. Is he going to be coming round behind and trying to get a shot into him? No, looks like he's not. But with the T103 being shut down in this game, it makes it very, very easy for him to now push on and deal with whatever's left in the game, albeit it is now 9 and 11 on the scoreboard, and with the enemy team having slightly less hit points than his team but multiple vehicles ahead, it's kind of one of those cases where you need to be very accurate and finish off the low health tanks to then deal with whatever's left on full health, like this CS52 Liss. So some may call this the perfect game, having done 8,000 damage before even removing any hit points of his own vehicle, and that makes it very difficult for the opponents to now deal with him, because a full health T110E5 at the end of the game is super strong in this sort of matchup. So the first shell of damage does come from the GSAW, but very quickly shut down by himself, and yes, the first shot of damage only takes away 269 hit points, and now moving towards this CS52. Now the CS52 in its own right is not actually that bad, but it can definitely not compete at all with the E5, and this is what typically happens in these top tier games, where you can be on full health at the end of the game. The E5 has the mobility to be super aggressive and get towards your opponents. With something like a turbocharger may be useful on the E5, because you can then get into position even faster, and you can play it even more like a medium tank and deal with a lot of the enemy medium tanks that are in the game. Even the amount of damage and kills within this game at 11 and also 8.9 thousand damage, you can see that no matter how you play the E5, there's a variety of different ways you can use it. And of course, because of the kind of accuracy of this vehicle, you can pinpoint the last remaining tanks, remove their hit points, and then go on with the game how you feel. Because a lot of the time with the heavy tanks, you don't get the opportunity to deal loads and loads of damage into different vehicles to be able to shut people out of the game. Once you've fired your one shell, that's it, that's over, it's done. But unfortunately, the TVP manages to bounce around, because okay, it does pen 1, pens 2, and then with a next one bouncing off of the tracks. Now it's time to go after this TVP, and with no one else on the team but the T110E3, it's looking unlikely that he's going to get over here and help out the E5, but with the accuracy, with the mobility, and with the overall skill level of this player, it doesn't need any help at all. And so 10,000 damage being done, 3,000 damage being blocked in this high tier matchup. Yes, I think that this is almost one of the perfect games that I've seen in the E5. Everything just going perfectly, everything going well, and finally coming after the M103, going for the 13th kill of the game, and of course hits on the move in style in the E5. So the E5 is an outrageous vehicle in itself and has the ability to punish opponents, to be able to relocate, and under the hands of the right player and the right marksman behind the wheel, it is unbelievably good. Hopefully this video has showcased not only the weak points and the strengths, but also my opinion on this vehicle and why you should probably go towards it at some point in your World of Tanks career. So if you did enjoy this video even a slight bit, please think about subscribing and also liking the video. But don't forget, if you're not interested in that and you just want to find some more gameplay and tank reviews and videos exactly like this, then there is a gameplay and tank reviews playlist on screen that I highly recommend you take a look at. I would really appreciate that as well. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you join me in one of those, and I'll see you there. Goodbye.